So one of the things we've been talking about with your guitar goals is fretboard knowledge. And the way we've been approaching that is learning the 5 pentatonic shapes. And then separately, we were learning the CAGED system, the open chord shapes that exist in different forms up the neck. So I have something you could include into your practice plan that kind of takes both of those ideas and puts them together for one practice. What we're going to do is we're going to look at first the CAGED triads. Will be in the key of G. So we'll start with our open G shape. And with each of these triads, as we go up the neck, we want to focus on a couple things. We want to focus on what notes we are covering when we make our triad. So there's our G open shape, and if we follow the CAGED, the next shape would be the E shape G. But we're only going to be working on the G, B, and E strings. So I got my little triad, my E shape triad G, and then CAGED would be the D shaped triad way up here on the 7th fret. And we're going to be concentrating on the notes we're covering with the triad as safe notes if we want to improvise. But for each of the triads, as we move up the neck, we're going to look at the corresponding pentatonic shape. So there's 5 open chord shapes, CAGED, and there's 5 pentatonic shapes, whether we're talking major, minor. For this exercise, since we're in the key of G major, we'll be talking about major pentatonic shapes. And we'll see with each chord shape, there's a corresponding pentatonic shape. But just like we were the triads only focusing on the top strings, what we want to do then is look at the associated pentatonic shape, but only look at the notes the pentatonic scale gives us on the E, B, and G strings. So for example, if we use the G shape to begin with, the open G shape, the pentatonic scale we would have, if we don't have to worry about this nut, is the pattern that we typically were using on the 5th fret. For the minor, I think it's the pentatonic 1 for minor. I'm not sure the numbers, but it's basically that pattern. But if we were to do it open, it would be 3 open, 3 open, and I'm starting on the low E string and going up the neck. So 3 open, 3 open, 2 open, 2 open, 2 open, 3 open. So that would be our pentatonic shape. But again, as a triad, we're looking at the 3 notes available to us from that pentatonic shape. So open 2, open 3, open 3. And that's over that chord shape. So we could connect the next shape, which would be our E shape G, or using our little triad, with that triad. So if we have open 3, open 3, open 2, we could now look at the corresponding pentatonic scale for the E shape, which is this long kind of shape. But again, we're only worried about the top 3 strings, so that gives us for the pentatonic shape over that E. So now we have these 3, and we have, so I'm just connecting the pentatonic shape in the first position to the next pentatonic shape up. But I'm wanting you to be able to visualize that it's over this triad, which is our E triad. We call that our E triad because remember, F and B, you need a bar chord to make them, so that's really our E shape. And that triad, anytime you're making a chord triad, just as if you were making the F chord down here, and you have associated notes you could play off of it, those are safe notes to play when we're improvising. And from my triad, you could see this is the 2nd shape of that pentatonic E. It's giving me those same notes. So there's G, pentatonic, E, triad, pentatonic. Then we go to D, up here on the 7th fret. That's the triad in our pentatonic. And again, it's just the 3 notes on the G, B, and E strings. So there's the pentatonic scale notes. And I could connect them all the way on one string, or I can just make little runs from the G shape to the E shape to the D shape that I have. Following the cage after D, the next would be our C shape. So we kind of played notes on the pentatonic scale behind it, and now our C pentatonic, means that we have these notes on our top 3 strings. And I kind of use this as our our D-shaped G for the C. Since I don't like making this bar chord, I might just use the abbreviated, call that my G, with these 2 on there, not the bass. So again, pentatonic shapes in open position 1, 2, D shape 3, C shape, so you can use just connecting the notes of the high ends of the pentatonic shapes up with your caged triads. So after the C shape is our A shape G, so I'm on the 12th fret doing that bar chord. And again, the pentatonic shape associated with that is the whole scale is, but the top 3. And again, you can, the idea would be kind of to run the scales together as little forms of improvising as you're going up the neck. So open, so I just went up the highest notes of each of the forms of the pentatonic shape associated with the G, the E, the D, the C, the A, and then we get to our octave, which is our G all over again. If I were to bar it, it would be this G up here, which is that familiar shape that you know, but since we're in the key of G, we're starting it on our root up here. So that's the idea of practicing by thinking of chord triads and seeing the associated pentatonic shape with them and starting to play more horizontally up the neck with just little riffs on those 3 strings. It's still good, obviously, to learn the full pentatonic shape. And just like I did on the top 3 strings, you could even look at the full cage shapes. So there's our E shape. And know that you can also play around with just the bass strings or the middle strings with the same idea. Just take what the pentatonic scale for that chord shape gives you. In this case, this one is for E, or the open, and you could do that all the way up the neck, either with the lowest strings or the middle strings.